I want to first say thank you so much for meeting me on a Saturday. I know this is like the least thing that you'd like to do on a Saturday or your weekend. So
No
I
problem at all.
appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate your passion for what we do at SJP. And yeah, thank you for, having me today. Nice
Y-
meeting you again.
Yeah, and I hope your son is doing better. I know he was a little bit sick last time, so again, I apologize if I'm being
I mean,
annoying.
I also apologize for the delay and like the back and forth. So I'm glad that we
No,
have
that's
time to just like, sit and talk about this.
great. Okay, I'm so glad. I don't want to take too much of your time, so I do want to like kind of jump in, but of course, if I'm looking at my screen, it's just my notes and I want to make sure that we cover all the questions, but I just wanted to just say like, we're in a devastating moment in history right now. Gaza is facing, as you know, one of the worst humanitarian crisis of our time. Tens and thousands of civilians have been killed, including thousands of children, as you know. I don't need to tell you that, but just for the interview. And also, entire families are being wiped out, and yet so many people here in the US don't fully understand what's going on. I wanted us I wanted us to talk about it and use this project to uplift Palestinian voices and learn from people like you who are doing the work on the ground, or in this case, on the campuses, which is huge, right? So there's a lot going on in the campuses right now, and that to fight for liberation, justice, and solidarity. That's why I reached out to the National SJP. So.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you again, Isra. I really appreciate you starting with that and touching on those points. I think a big emphasis on the people here in the US often don't really fully understand what's going on. And,
Mhm.
I feel like that's what means a lot. And, this moment is heartbreaking and it's also infuriating because so much of the violence in Gaza is happening with the US funding and political support. But what you said about people not understanding it's true. And, that's why the work that we're doing, even through, a small project, these kind of conversations matter. We've always believed that students have a unique role to play in shifting the narratives, challenging institutions, showing solidarity in ways that, can cause a ripple effect that go even beyond campuses. And, we've seen that in the last year or so about the impact that students can have. When someone like you says you want to listen, learn, and act, it's a powerful thing. And, that's where it starts. That's the foundation of any real movement. And I'm honored to be here with you. And I'm excited to talk with you about how we keep building together and keep building this conversation and keep things, moving forward.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That is really good to hear everything you just said. And it is, I know you said you're honored, but I'm also honored. It's so nice to meet people like yourself making a change
Thank you.
in our world, right? Human rights matter, and this is huge. Again, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'm gonna go and jump in with some questions. Feel free to take a break if you don't feel comfortable with something, please let me know. It is being recorded. I know we talked about being in the beginning, but just so you're comfortable. And for whatever reason, if you're not comfortable with a question, just let me know. I'm open to it. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. Are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So can you tell me about your background and your role within the National SJP? That's the first jump in question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, I'm a Palestinian American organizer, and my work with, National SJP focuses on empowering students to take political action that is rooted in liberation. My primary goal is always, coordinating support for our 350 plus campus chapters. helping develop campaigns, connecting students to resources, and working on, coalition efforts and building with other movements for justice. Does that
Great,
make
great. How did you first, I guess, yeah, how did you first get involved with SJP?
That's a great question. So I actually joined SJP in college during the 2014 bombardment of Gaza. And I felt like no one around me really understood or even cared. It was very suffocating. And SJP gave me a space to process that that pain and most importantly, give me an opportunity to turn that into an action.
Wow, beautiful. Wow, yeah. I can imagine how that's hard. I'm not, I feel you. I mean, just being someone ethnic or, a brown person, we live in a time where being ourselves can be really hard. And especially when we see these issues going on in the Middle East and we feel like we don't have a voice or people don't understand us. So, yeah, I do feel you on that. And that's, pretty awesome that you wanted to take action. I love that. What does a typical day look in your role?
That's another great question. Well, I mean, that's the thing I do love about this work with National SJP. Every day is something different. Um, Sometimes I'm helping students respond to repression from their own schools. Other days I'm organizing webinars, writing toolkits, or even connecting with like legal matters and media allies, things like that. So every day is different. Right when you think you've seen it all, there's something else.
Right. I mean, well, I can't really imagine. So, I'm sure it's definitely varies day to day, especially with students on the campuses. Also, what's going on with like ICE raids and students being their visas being, taken and students possibly being deported. I'm sure it can be really stressful day to day. You'd have to just never know. What challenges do you face in this position?
Well, like you said, the biggest challenge right now is, one, protecting the students and making sure that their voices are heard. And the other big challenge is making sure, people aren't getting burnt out. Students are expected to organize, protest, educate each other. And
Hmm.
then on top of it, these are also students who are, attending school just like everyone else there and trying to get their education and, protecting them, they need to protect themselves from the harassment or surveillance, especially with what's going on campuses right now and the backlash that they're facing for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it can't be easy for these students, especially with just what's going on, especially the harassment and also the support, the lack of support that some of these universities are not giving their own students. I mean, for me, not to go off topic, but these students are paying tuition. They pay lots of money to attend. They're getting these degrees, and then the support, the universities aren't supporting freedom of speech. So I feel like that's really heartbreaking for some of these students. So yeah, it takes a lot, and I think it's really awesome that you guys and yourself are here to like be there for them and protect them and really give them the resources that they need. With that said, speaking of advocacy, which is my whole project, how could you describe, excuse me, how would you describe your advocacy style?
Definitely. We definitely have some deep-rooted values, and that comes down to being grounded, making sure we're always staying intentional, and above all, just collective as a unit, making sure everybody is on the same page is always essential. I believe in building sustainable movements, back to that burnout aspect, making sure we're moving as a group forward and that it's sustainable and not just, one-time protest, one and done kind of thing. Liberation work takes time, it takes care, strategy, and consistency. So that's kind of, you know, the approach that we usually take.
Um, can you share? a moment where your advocacy made an impact? I'm sure a lot of moments. You probably have a lot of moments, but is there one maybe in particular recently that really just, stuck with you or made an impact?
Yeah, I mean, every day is a marathon, but last year we actually coordinated a campaign that pushed a university to end a research partnership that they had. I'm not going to name names, but with a weapons manufacturer involved in the occupation, and this took months. It wasn't easy, but this was a great, showcase for the students that they can make it happen if they want to.
Right. Wow. That's really powerful, honestly. And I can imagine you probably have a lot of, aha, nice moments, I would say. Especially, I know, seeing these protests, I see students, say like divest, from, and these are things that they have a list asking their universities for a list of things that they expect or want. And it just shows that, like, yeah, you said it took some months. So it is possible to protest and get out there and for students to really ask for these things that they want from their universities. It's very powerful. And I'm sure in your line of work, that's like really a proud moment for you to see that these students are out there every day. And this is not even just encampments, but like not only just like tenting on the grass, but really just like making an impact. So and I think it's really powerful and that's amazing. So yeah, that's a great accomplishment and I'm sure you're proud of it and proud of your students. How do you measure the success of your campaigns? I know a lot of people probably ask this question or like how, yeah, like how does this grow? How do you know what you're doing and like how does it make a difference? How do you know you're making a difference? So yeah, how do you measure that?
Oh man, you're asking all the hard questions today.
Yes.
Well, I mean, again, that's a great question. I mean, I think, we definitely look at different variables such as chapter growth, student engagement, things like media visibility, and obviously the goal a lot of the times is having those shifts in campus policy. And those are the biggest variables that we measure. But the most meaningful data often comes from, the field itself. Like, what are the students' reflections and the community response of, what's going on within the group themselves and the community. And I think that's something that we definitely take into consideration.
Wow, okay. So, yeah, so in ultimate, it's not going to be like a typical corporate data, right? You're not going to like pull these like numbers, but in your line of work, it really is about stories, the people, the students. Like it's like the webinars, the protests. This is like what you gather your data, which is like real life stories, which is really powerful and unique as well. That's what keeps you guys going. Um and I guess my follow-up question to that would be how do you make sure your goals align with the community in Palestine?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an essential thing. And, we stay connected with Palestinian organizers, and we actually follow their lead a lot of the times, and we make sure our advocacy centers around their voices because we have to remember that this isn't just um, you know, just something we're doing just here in the US. Like this is like real, and these are the people that are actually being affected by this, and we need to carry their voices and amplify their voices and, hear what is important to them and not just from what we see here and from the US narratives.
Wow. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I could see that happening because I know there's a lot of like social media and everything's in the US. People are constantly, especially the campuses in the US with the encampments and stuff. But in the end, like, yeah, there's the big leader, like the Palestinian organizers that are actually on the ground in Palestine or in Gaza that are being affected. And it's like, it's just such a small piece of the US being part of it, but like is seeing the main organizers that you guys work with also is huge and I think that's beautiful that you stay connected with them as well. um Yeah, no, of course. What learning experiences do you offer to help students become stronger advocates? I mean, obviously, there's definitely students that want to be in this type of work like yourself. Um, so yeah, I just what's the learning experience that you could offer those students to become stronger advocates?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the most impactful things of this position. And, it's one thing that these students show up and make a difference with their protest and their voice, but every once in a while you get a natural leader and, somebody that wants to do more and go on to lead their own protest and, take initiative. And, we do this by, hosting national conferences, leadership trainings, like you said, webinars, on things like, topics of media, law, political education, things like that, basically. And we also, release toolkits that they can have and digital resources that they can, have on file throughout the year, which kind of, helps them look back on.
Wow, okay, that's amazing. Are there any examples of events that made a big impact? So like yeah.
Yeah, actually, our Teach Palestine campaign led to dozens of campus uh, teach-ins, as we call them, in 2023, I believe. And students reported, that they were feeling more confident and, discussing topics and, educating their peers after, um, attending the Teach Palestine campaign. So I think that was definitely a step in the right direction.
Oh, okay, great. That's really good to hear. I love hearing these, powerful impacts on students. How do you evaluate whether students are growing in their advocacy? So you guys do a lot of advocacy. How would you know that it's making a difference or they're growing and there's some growth with the advocacy?
Right. I mean, the first step is showing up and being engaged, but it goes beyond that, and we hold group debriefs after events for those that want to just kind of like do, self-evaluations or, we're less focused on, things like grades and more on things such as, your confidence, teamwork, and, commitment to the cause. I think those are the most important.
So yeah, like obviously like just communication and really just showing up and being there, not really like this is a grade and because in the end, you want the students to actually enjoy what they're doing, right? I'm assuming.
Right.
Okay, great. Sorry, you can take a break. I know it's a lot of talking.
Oh, you got me in the hot seat today.
I know, I'm sure. I'm so like, you're like, oh, it's a Saturday. You want to be relaxing. And here I am drilling you with questions. But I really do appreciate it. We're almost there. So we just have a few more questions to go. And I promise you'll be able to enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
No worries.
Um, so going back to just my last question of students growing through advocacy, any tools you use during this?
Yeah, actually, we definitely have done surveys in the past. One-on-one check-ins has been really effective, and hearing actual feedback, through like peer evaluations also have been a great resource for us when it comes to, having these tools at our disposal and just staying connected through conversation with each other, really, building these relationships are key at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great to hear. What are some of the biggest challenges facing? Oh, there's a kitty cat. Oh,
Oh yes, this is my cat. He's
hello. Oh, hi, kitty cat. He wants to be part of the meeting too.
I
What a
know
little.
calls, so. Sorry about that.
Oh no, that's okay. I love animals that we can't control our dogs and cats. Sometimes they want to be part of the conversation. What are some, or maybe I can ask him what if he's part of wanting to participate. What are some of the biggest challenges facing National SJP today?
Well, Um, I think the biggest one right now is campus repression right now. And, students are being doxxed, suspended, criminalized, and just for supporting Palestine. And there's a climate that this has caused of fear. And right now, it's definitely like have caused us some issues. And, we're having to reorganize through these hurdles. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, obviously, I mean, someone that's part of, this advocacy, I understand, but just even seeing like people that are not protesting or involved, but we see it on social media and on the news of like, students, being tracked on social media now. People are like, be careful with what you post, be careful where you're walking. I mean, with immigration issues, the campuses, are supposed to be a safe space for students. And I think there is, like you said, there's a climate of fear right now, and that's definitely a great way of putting it because a lot of students are scared. How do you respond to that pushback?
Yeah, and I think just it's not fair that a lot of students are being punished for, showing their support. So we have to respond by, with one, care, and two, we have to be more strategic.
Mhm.
We're building coalitions. We've brought in legal support and, keep showing up publicly to let these students know that they're not alone. And one voice makes a difference, but all our voices together is truly powerful at the end of
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's amazing that you guys are there for these students. They need that support. And I mean, whether that's, like you said, legal support, different strategies, but like, everybody showing up and supporting is really powerful. And it's also, I'm sure, emotional for them because they feel so isolated sometimes and alone. But to see this support and these organizations like yourself come through and be there for these students is huge. And I'm sure, and it might be a small impact on your end, but I'm sure it's a big impact for some of these students.
that.
Um, what does National SJP need most right now, and how can students like myself get involved?
Honestly, we just need more voices, more storytellers, people willing to research, people willing to educate, artists even willing to tell their story through visuals and their artistry and creativity. Not everything and not everyone needs to be at a protest or be a protest organizer. There's space for everyone with this movement. And like you said it, very well said, but there's a lot of emotions involved, and a lot of times emotions can be great drivers for, these opportunities for our storytellers, our artists, our educators out there. Like, get involved in other ways if you don't feel comfortable in just protesting.
Right, absolutely. And I do see that on your Instagram page. I see different schools getting involved. I see you guys have Palestinian poetry night for artists, which can express how they're feeling. And I love that. I think it's amazing to have these like different opportunities for students that don't want to necessarily be at protest and also that are kind of scared to show up, at protest, but giving them the space to like express themselves and tell their story and show their art pieces. It's like it's really truly amazing, and I love that you said there's a space for everyone. So I think that is so important when it comes to an organization like yourself, which SJP. Are there any immediate actions that I could take? Like what would you say that I can do? Like for myself or just anybody that wants to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing you could do is just, join or start a chapter, host a teach-in, amplify your campaigns online. We live in the digital era. Like, it's never been easier to get things moving and get involved. And, helping build the Palestinian curriculum for young learners right now is just such a powerful tool and emphasis that we need to focus on.
Right. Absolutely. So that's great advice. And I'm trying. I'm definitely I don't think I don't know if I can fill your shoes, but as an educator, it's really powerful for me and important for me to be part of advocacy and in every which way I can. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to say I know we have a few more questions. Thank you for hanging in there. How do you see my advocacy centered on educational justice and curriculum inclusion aligning with SJP? So, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, perfectly. Just you showing up today to just have this conversation. What you're doing is advocacy too. And, not a lot of people realize that. Just that conversation is part of the process. And, teaching about Palestine in a way that's honest, safe, and rooted in justice, that's powerful. And that's movement and work right there. Like that's how it starts. And I think you being an educator, you're definitely in step in the right direction.
Great. That's so good to hear. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I'm trying my best. I think that's, it's important for educators to constantly use their platform and their voice, whether it's a school project or, a job or a workplace, but it is important, like you said. So just talking about it and being honest, I do try my best. Any advice for my next steps?
That's a great question. I think the best advice that I could give you right now is just, find your people, stay rooted in your values and what you're passionate about. Follow your emotions and, don't wait to feel like you have to be ready. This work grows as we grow. So
Wow. Right. Beautifully said. Yeah, I guess I know that's easy to say, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I think a lot of people say that, and I think you're right. Like, we should just go with what we feel is right and do, even if it's something small, and then that way it does grow. Um, we reached the finish line. We're almost there. I have one last question.
all right.
So my last question is, what advice would you give to someone just getting started in Palestine advocacy? There's a lot of organizations out there. It can be very overwhelming. What would you like what kind of advice would you give someone that wanted to start? Especially, just like seeing social media or something or come across your organization and they want to start, but like what could you give or say to them?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this starts with, our educators, and a lot of times people are afraid to ask questions, and, it's hard to just like, you have to learn from the people on the ground,
Hmm.
and, you have to be able to ask questions, and, don't let fear stop you. This work is about the core values of humanity,
Hmm.
love and, not just resistance. That's kind of
Right.
what.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, of course, love. It's, we're humans. It's all about love and not hate, right? So it's just some people tend to forget the message, and that was beautifully said. What skills should I develop to grow in this work?
Overall, I think critical thinking, storytelling, community organizing, and emotional resilience. We keep coming back to that word emotional, and I think it's really important that this, because this work is heavy and what we're doing is real, and but it's also just, there's beauty in the chaos and the connection. And at the end of the day, we're making a difference day by day. It's a marathon, but we just keep moving forward. That's all we can do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, this was amazing. And I just want to say, well, you can take a deep breath. We finished. I'm not going to drill you anymore. I'm so sorry to just be like question after question, but they're amazing answers. And
Great
uh,
questions,
um,
honestly.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Mustafa. This was not only like just so much information to take in, but generally inspiring. Like I just feel this is just the impact you're doing. I appreciate your time and your leadership, and I'm really excited to continue supporting this movement and exploring how education can be a tool for justice. I love what I do. I love, being an educator and being a part of certain, organizations like SJP is so amazing and uplifting, and just people like yourself doing a small part in the community is huge. It's a huge impact, and you get to work, with these students and make a difference in their life. And I just wanted to say, honestly, thank you so much. So yeah, and thank you for this interview again. And I know a lot of back and forth emails and trying to get it in, and just I know you're so busy right now. So I do appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your passion is truly inspiring, Isra, and I hope that you keep this conversation going, and I hope, this, causes a ripple effect with, the people in your life, and, just keep that conversation going and, stay connected. You have my contact information, so reach out to me with any questions or just stay connected. That's all we can do.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Thank you again. It's been such a pleasure to virtually meet you. I hope that I get to meet you in person at one of these campaigns or protests at campus. If you're ever in Los Angeles, I hope to see your face. I know you're kind of all over the US, different campaigns, but yeah, I'd love to see you in person. So hopefully we can cross paths one day. And again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you, Izzy. You too. I appreciate your time. Take care,
Bu-
okay?
Bye.